It goes where no Dragon Ball Z game has gone before. Everywhere. Introducing Dragon Ball Z Sagas.
Welcome back to Retro Rebound. In today's video, I think I finally get it, man. You know, when I get my hair cut, I see the occasional comment roll in. They say, "What's up, Matt Sunderland?" And after playing Silent Hill 2, I kind of get it. But we're not here to talk about Silent Hill 2. No. We're talking about another horror experience. And that horror experience is Dragon Ball Z? What, Matty? Yes. So ladies and gentlemen, continuing our series here of, is it really that good or bad? Today, I decided to dive into the depths of the many Dragon Ball video games, and I plucked out from deep in hell itself, Dragon Ball Z. Let me flip this around. Dragon Ball Z Sagas. Oh, man. So for those who are new here and don't know much about this series, what we typically do is we fish out the games, and then we take a look at the reviews online. We see how it fares, and we see if it lives up to what the public has decided this game should be viewed as. And in certain cases, I serve as the bubble popper to certain groups of people who want to lift up a hidden gem, or I serve as the platform that elevates a title and says, like, yeah, it really is that guy. So is Dragon Ball Z Sagas that guy? No, it's not that guy. Not at all. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get into why in this video. If you are new here and you're into nostalgic, retrospective content, you're in the right place. Consider subscribing. Now, let's dive in with the complete in-box experience. Yep, got it on GameCube. I don't know why I have the most expensive version. I know why I own this game, because I have a series over on my Mr. Matty channel called Humanity's Worst Games, which is now retired. But over there, what I would do is pick out Humanity's Worst Video Games, you guessed it, and I would fire them up, do more of a Let's Play style video on them, and do all these crazy skits. This series just feels like the spiritual successor to that, and I always felt it fit better on this channel, so it's funny how those things happen. But that's why I own this game in the first place. What I will say is I do like the cover for this game. If there's one thing I can compliment, it is the cover. The reason for that is you can see here, they're almost like manga panels. You can see squares forming for all the shots with Goku versus Cell, Goku doing a Kamehameha. You see Frieza in the background. The box art here does go hard. But what I like to say is add an extra S here, because that's a better name for the game, quite frankly. Now, the back here, you got the Cell stank face going, "Don't come near here, Gohan." An adventure of Saiyan proportions. Join the Z Warriors in their first ever action game as you complete the epic journey from the Saiyan saga through the Cell games. Battle their enemies, discover all new parts of the DBZ story, that's not true, as you obliterate fully destructible environments, enter their world, and become a hero. Play as your favorite DBZ heroes, Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, Piccolo, and Trunks. Does that look familiar to you? Because they wrote almost the exact same thing on the back of the Legacy of Goku box art. Go watch those videos. Face brutal enemies, including Raditz, Nappa, Ginyu, Frieza, and Cell. Unintentional wording there, but yeah, they're brutal in a very specific way. We'll get into why. Unlock bonus areas, characters, and other hidden surprises, and battle in 1 or 2 player co-op. So that's what's on the back of the box. Cracking it open here, you can see this is one of those discs where the art isn't really on the top, so there's actually scratches. It may not be able to be picked up on the camera, but there are scratches here on the top of the disc art, so that's unfortunate, but it's okay. I don't really hold this copy close to my heart. Opening it up, though, not a bad manual. You know, you got your character portraits that Matty's always looking for. You have a prologue here to identify just how down bad DBZ fans are. It says, before Dragon Ball GT, before Super Saiyan 4, before the epic struggle with the Shenrons, Goku was just beginning to discover his true power. So yes, as people were suffering through, not everyone hates GT, but as some people were suffering through GT, they also dropped Saga on your lap. So thank you, Atari, for that one. You did a great job out there. You know, high five. All right. So what this game prides itself on is, as you see here, play sagas. It goes through some of the main Dragon Ball sagas outside of the Buu saga. And once you complete all those, you unlock what's called the Pendulum mode. This is where you can replay certain chapters, and you can also play as different characters in the game. You can unlock Broly, Bardock, Krillin, Yamcha, Tien. You can unlock them all here. You can wear different costumes. That type of mode actually sounds cool, and it would be more interesting if this game just let you pick any of these characters off the rip. But it's desire to be close to the anime and authentic with that experience is, I think, what really cripples it beyond all of its terrible mechanics that we'll get into. But that is something you'll unlock after beating the game here. You'll see the combat. They break it down here with a Y button to kick, a B button to punch, different range attacks with Goku's Kamehameha, Gohan's Masenko, Piccolo's special beam cannon, so on and so forth. Nothing you haven't seen before, but yeah, it's a beat 'em up game, a 3D beat 'em up game. And that's kind of exciting, right? Because when you look at that, you look at here, they're talking about exploring different pickups you can find for capsules, Z coins. This all sounds great because it's very rare that Dragon Ball goes beyond what it's known for, which are fighting games with Budokai and Budokai Tenkaichi at the time. It was hard to find a really unique one outside of what we've talked about here on the channel already with the Legacy of Goku series and a couple others. It's why I really champion games, and I will definitely make a video on it, such as Dragon Ball Fusions. I think that game on the 3DS is fantastic. Please go look it up if you have yet to. But I digress. That's what this game really built itself off of. Exploration, beat 'em up combat, flying. No, not really. But everything here feels low budget. It's the Walmart version of Rise of Sinzu. For those who remember my Batman video, Rise of Sinzu is a Batman beat 'em up that followed Batman Vengeance, and what a step down that was on a separate note. But Rise of Sinzu was cool because there were co-op elements where you could do co-op team attacks, and the sound effects were really hardcore, and it sounded like you were breaking everyone's bone. Like, the game went hard. For all of the flaws I feel it has, and the step down I think it is from something as superb as Vengeance, there is a lot to like about the presentation of Rise of Sinzu. So think of that game and then put it on a lower budget and you've got Sagas. And as you can see here, they talk about the co-op mode here on the back with the Cell stank face again. He's like, no, that smells like Sagas to me. Oh man, let's go ahead, throw this manual in and discuss this wonderful video game. All right. I try to be positive on this channel. As many of you know, we talk about mostly games that I love, that we love together. So I want to start off positive here, I guess, like, what, 7 minutes into the video now, and shout out the art style. I think overall this is aged pretty well because the colors really pop. The game, when there isn't a lot of chaos on screen, runs pretty well. And I think if the animations were a bit slicker and the combat had a better feel to it, this would have presented as a pretty solid Dragon Ball game. But it collapses pretty quickly, like within the first encounter type quickly. So there you are, going one-on-one with Cybermen. Even though there's like 8 surrounding you, they force you to fight one at a time. This is problematic in design because when I think of Rise of Sinzu, and I'm not trying to one-to-one compare them, but there are very few 3D beat-em-ups that play quite like these two, I feel, during their specific release cycles. So I feel they are oddly comparable. But what I liked about Rise of Sinzu is they throw 8 enemies at you. Cool, that's a beat-em-up thing to do. And you can hit them with your combos and round them up and knock a lot of them over. But this game has you one-on-one, then one-on-one. But the thing is that while you're fighting one enemy, that other one behind you or to your right or even right next to him can hit you still. And that's frustrating because you want to hit them both, but you can't. Even when you use your Ki Blast, your Kamehameha, you can't. In fact, I found myself knocking over my own teammate in co-op mode more often than I found myself comboing up 2 fine gentlemen at once. And that made combat feel like a snooze fest. There wasn't that power fantasy that's packed into almost any Dragon Ball game, whether it would be presentation. Like, you could say what you will about Ultimate Tenkaichi, that's negative, and I would probably agree with you. But what I will say is the presentation was badass, and it made you feel, and it looked powerful. It was a fun game to watch, not a fun game to play. But Dragon Ball Z Sagas just drops the ball on presentation, and it drops the ball on combat. What could be cool, I think, is as you're exploring these levels and hitting into 1,000,001 collision boxes, because there's very little exploration, you like try to hop up on a hill, but you get caught. You have to like jank your way up a hill a la Skyrim. Remember when you had to jump up the side of a mountaintop? Yeah, imagine that, but again, on a lower budget. Like everything that you ever have experienced, but again, on a lower budget. That's this game here. So you'll explore and you're going to complete objectives like finding the Dragon Balls, 7 of them, or in one case, you have to find Dende, and when you find Dende, he's like, thanks, I'm gonna go find Nail now, and he just rises out of the screen real quickly. It's like this really awkward cutscene where you go, wow, They really slapped this one together, huh? But you're going to complete objectives like this before inevitably at the end of the level, you get to a boss fight. And these boss fights, man. Oh, these boss fights. Oh my God. If the combat wasn't already atrocious enough, the last thing you need is spongy bosses. Really spongy bosses. And I noticed something they did when I fought Jace and Berta, right? They went down pretty quickly when I was Goku and Vegeta. Makes sense. You're creating a bit of a power scale. But when it was Gohan and Piccolo versus Nappa, yeah, Nappa took like 8 million hits for some reason. Okay. And you felt really weak. I get maybe what they were trying to go for here, but this game just does not deliver any power fantasy. And in fact, what you have to do to beat these bosses is to combo them endlessly and stun lock them endlessly until the end of time, which will take tons of minutes to beat. And I know tons of minutes is probably a really weird phrase to hear, but the game could benefit so much if they just let you do more damage. But as you're seeing on screen, you just continue to combo them up, stun them, combo them up, stun them. And that doesn't even get into the slapped on co-op. And it's highlighted here in these boss fights where, again, it's a little too true to the anime when it should just be trying to kick the doors down and be this fun Dragon Ball beat 'em up where it says, yeah, you could do right off the rip Broly and Bardock versus Nappa and just kick the hell out of them. Why not? I would love if they did that. But instead what they do is they stay true to the anime. So when it's Goku versus Vegeta, guess what you do as the second player? You watch the first player play the game, and then a little hourglass appears on the top right, and the time starts ticking. You hear a little beeping sound. It's your turn, and the game swaps you in, and you continue the fight until it's player one's turn. And it's this weird passing of the controller type moment. I don't know what the thought process was here where they went, no, you have to do, without a doubt, Goku versus Vegeta. Or, I don't know what else, Goku versus Frieza. You have to do these. But I really think it's what hurt the game was being so true to the anime, because then things like the leveling up system could have been cool. So as you're exploring, I mentioned you're completing these objectives, but you're also going to get these things called Z coins, and these Z coins can be spent at an upgrade shop, and you can get certain moves like uppercuts to the ability to charge your ki a little bit quicker, to different combo moves that'll take out average enemies or weak enemies or strong enemies, and they require different inputs that are typically like BB, YY, BB, and just that's it. And you'll rinse and repeat these on an enemy over and over and over until they finally, I guess, flatten out and disintegrate into the earth, because that's the dying animation in this game. But yeah, there is an upgrade system, and I just think if you could play as these other characters, which eventually you can, by the way. I said this earlier, but the pendulum mode does let you do this. I just think out the gate, it would have, presentation-wise, erased some of the flaws, because you could just get into the idea of being Bardock and doing something that typically you wouldn't be doing in this point in the show. Like, Bardock's dead, right? He shouldn't be here fighting Frieza again. But maybe if you did that with some unique dialogue, it could be a really cool experience. But there's little depth here as you just crawl through an abridged version of the anime that shows like little highlights in the cutscene and then just throws you into the next mission. I mean, the types of skips that happen here are insane. You'll go from running through a level fighting Raditz, then running through a level fighting Nappa. Then there's this weird 20-second tops cutscene, and now you're in the canyon. And look, I've played and watched Dragon Ball Z a million times over. We know the story like the back of our hand thanks to these games that just continue to repeat that story. Somehow, they made the most abridged version of this story of all time. It is a game that would be probably an hour long if it was balanced, and that's why I think the boss fights are spongy, because most of your time will be spent endlessly reeling the combos on these fools until the fight's over, because otherwise this game is just a wash. It's just over in a heartbeat. It's a really quick 1, 2, 3 per saga. There's like 3 episodes per saga that you're going to run through. It gets a little bit longer towards the end, but you're going to run through them, do some boss fights, and you're going to do, again, the Saiyan Saga, the Frieza Saga, and then the Cell Saga, and the game will end there. I don't know, man. Like, even the soundtrack, you could tell they tried to emulate the Bruce Falconer soundtrack. And I'm not one of those Dragon Ball fans that feels we need to swear by his music. There are some hardcore fans, and I respect that. I love that. As a huge Dragon Ball Z fan, I love that. But I feel this series has to develop and evolve beyond what that iconic track is. Otherwise, it'll forever under-deliver. So I respect when we try to step away and do something new, but when we instead hire a different set of hands and try to make a soundtrack that sounds like it, again, that Walmart example I've been bringing up all video, it feels so true when just hearing the game. And to me, I like it when you go to Dragon Ball FighterZ and you hear this hardcore kind of dubstep music for West City. Just go, oh, this is awesome. It's so fast-paced and hardcore and intense. It fits Dragon Ball in a new way. I just feel like a lot of these games in the series, especially Sagas, didn't try to search for new ways to explore that. Otherwise, the other collectibles you'll be getting in the level, on just a separate note here, are going to be capsules. You'll find red capsules, which will eventually increase your health bar, and yellow capsules that'll eventually increase your key meter. You'll be spamming this key blast a ton, and it's the most awe-inspiring design choice, because what they'll do is, let's say I'm charging up a special beam cannon, right? And my friend's playing as Gohan, and he's running around. It slows down the game for everyone. And I get what they're trying to do, like special beam cannon. I get what they were trying to do, like you're building up your key attack, but it stops the action completely. And again, back to my one-on-one example, it's not like you shoot a special beam cannon or a Kamehameha or a Masenko or a Gallic gun and you just eradicate the battlefield. You hit one enemy. And that's pretty much it. It's mind-numbing, man. I can't believe it. It's funny because my friend Soul, he played through this game with me, and he's as big of a Dragon Ball fan as I. He loves the series like I do, and he's the one who grew up with this game. I had the fortune of missing this game. I probably should have said that at the start. I have no history with this game. This was a game I just happened to miss, and it's one of the few times that I'm thankful growing up I didn't have any money, so I didn't happen into this video game. But he was the person who played every single game that had this logo here on the front. And he went, yeah, it's a beat 'em up, you know, it's not that great, but let's give it a second try. Why not? It could be a good video for Retro Rebound. I was like, okay, that's one way to sell me, I guess. And so we hop on in. He went, you know, Matt, I'm not going to lie. This game's kind of boring, dude. I was like, yeah, that's a brilliant observation. I mean, wow, it really is that boring. Like, I just love it because us as Dragon Ball fans, we sit here and we just want everything to be good, and it's so disappointing when it's bad. But this was during a time where there was just a new Dragon Ball game every year, so that was the Dragon Ball game for the year. Same thing with Ultimate Tenkaichi. That just was the Dragon Ball game for the year. It's like, okay, let's see what we got this time, Bandai, or in this case, Atari. Let's see what we got. And yeah, wow, did they ever deliver. They delivered a pretty big stinker. But otherwise, just can't help but look at this game and just feel something negative stirring within me. It's a really interesting game, but it's not one I can recommend. And just given the reviews online, I'd say they're right. This game really is that bad. It really is that mediocre. I know some may think I'm being harsh on it, but I do recommend you give it a second try if you don't believe me. There's some elements here that you're going to play and go, oh, I see what he meant on that. That wasn't really peak fiction there. No. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's everything I have to say about Dragon Ball Z Sagas. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you did enjoy this. Let me know what game you want me to play next. And with that, take fantastic care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next Retro Rebound. Peace out.